Hey there, my name is Michael Blanc, and if you're interested in real estate investing, you are in the right place. Okay, let's get started with our topic today. It's going to be 11 best practices to follow for peak rental performance. All right, so once you close on a deal, do you just sit back and count the passive income? Yeah, not quite. So if you suspect that the answer might be no, then the next question would be, okay, what should it be? What should you do after close? Well, how should you manage the property manager? How do you make sure your property manager is hitting your projections? What reports should you review? How frequently should you look for those reports, and what should you look for? So if you're wondering about these questions, then you're going to love this video, because in it I review the best practices to follow to properly manage your property manager on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. And if you follow these steps, you're going to make sure you're going to maximize the value of your rental portfolio for you and your investors. So here we go. Let's get right into the best practice to follow. The first one really is we're going to do it on a weekly and monthly and annual basis. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to look at weekly activity. So there's a weekly cadence we have with our investors. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically look at what we call the Monday morning report. All right, so this is an example of a Monday morning report here. And this is for 321 units called Country View. And in it, there are certain key metrics that we want to look at every single week. We're looking at the number of down units, the number of occupied. So you see the percentage here. We see the vacants, pre-lease. So we want to know if there's, let's say, 16 vacants, but 4 are pre-lease. That means that in the next few weeks we can expect that number to go down. And there's a bunch of other ones in there. The current delinquencies on the right, and again, that's a bit higher now because we're still in the first week. So the point is this: you want to track key performance indicators every single week, and you get it from your property manager somehow. Either they send you a report like this, or you log into their portal and you get that information. So you want to track certain things. For example, you definitely want to track vacancies. Okay, income is the most important thing, followed then by expenses. But vacancies is very important. What are the vacancies? And how are they being filled? And related to vacancies, a lot of the good property managers are tracking number of leads or foot traffic to the property. So you want to see, well, how many leads did they get in? How many times did they show an apartment? Right. So you will basically want to look and see if there's activity, is there's lease-up activity, are the units being turned over correctly? What are the vacants? So the number one priority, especially when you get into a deal, is income. Any metric around income is very, very important. Second of all is delinquency. So you can have 100% physically occupied, but if they're not collecting rents, that's a problem. So the second thing on the income you want to look at is the delinquencies. What is the actual collection? So if you're looking at the first week report, a lot of class, B minus, C plus, sometimes it's a little slower to collect the rents. So delinquency might be really, really high in week 2, and you'll see it go down. So what is the actual dollar amount of delinquencies? So that's really, really important. The second thing on your weekly thing is expenses. Okay, so typically we do that on a more monthly basis, but on a weekly basis, what's really good is to see, hey, what kind of bills did they pay? Any big expenditures they had, and if so, you might want to ask them a question. Speaking of asking the questions, while you're getting this Monday morning report, it's also very important that you have a weekly call with your property manager. So the ideal situation is that you have let's say you get the report Monday morning, you have a call on Tuesday or Wednesday, gives you time to digest the report and ask questions. So you have this interaction with your property managers on a weekly basis. Once the property stabilizes, you can then relax that, maybe do it every other week or possibly even once a month. So that's kind of what we do on a weekly basis. Here's what we do on a monthly basis. The main thing we do on a monthly basis, we have and review the profit and loss report. Let's take a look at the one. So here's an example of a profit and loss statement, and this is basically, now we're looking at later in the year, so we have a month by month, side by side, and it really shows us everything, right? It shows us the income here, and it shows us the expenses. And this is interesting, but what's even more interesting is a profit and loss with a budget next to it. Okay, so this is the same thing, but with a budget and the actual. And this is where it's really, really interesting, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the property manager to manage according to the budget that he gave us when we bought this property. So same thing, and this is more meaningful. If you can get your property manager to produce this, outstanding. If you can't, then you basically want to do this yourself and see how they're performing. So here we can see that the total income was actually a little bit higher than projected, which is great. And then the same thing for the expenses. So that's kind of the thing that we do on a monthly basis, is to review the profit and loss. So in addition to the profit and loss, where we look at the budget versus actual on both the income and the expenses, and that requires a conversation. Again, what I advise that you do is to audit some of the expenses. Okay, you want to keep the property manager a bit honest, so you pick randomly, 3 to 5 bills they paid, and you ask for receipts for those things, and just a normal thing, and make sure those are real. Sometimes you discover errors, but sometimes they're not really paying a lot of attention to it, and sometimes there's even fraud. So do that as well. The other thing also is I want to review work orders, meaning I want to know from the time they get a work order request, how long do they take to respond to that? Because this is a strong indicator of how happy your tenants are going to be. And a lot of online property management systems will track that. So I review that as well. All right, we've done weekly, monthly, now we're on quarterly. Okay, there's the most important thing that happens quarterly if you have investors is your distributions. Now, we issue monthly reports to our investors anyway, because we do monthly reporting anyway, so I suggest you do the same thing too. But we make the distributions quarterly because it's a little bit involved. So that's really where you go through your bank accounts, you see how much money you have in the bank account, you deduct from that any kind of escrow reserves you have in there. For example, you're going to be escrowing money for the annual real estate taxes or the annual insurance premium. So every month you're putting some money aside and you're letting that accrue in your bank account. So you got to make sure you don't distribute that. Now anything that's left over above and beyond that, you can distribute. Now you should still have an operating reserve in your bank account, but you make that decision yourself. But the point is you decide then, hey, how much am I going to distribute? I'm distributing, I'll make it up $15,000 this month, and then you apply that to each of your investors, and out drops an amount, and then you cut checks or you do ACH distributions as well. So that happens once a quarter for us. The other thing also that once a quarter we do is we look at turnovers, okay, especially if there's an issue with turnovers. And we analyze those things and, hey, why did people move out? And that's one thing to look at as well, if turnovers are a problem as well. All right, let's get into the once per year. So once per year, we look at a lot of our service contracts, if they're up for renewal or anything like that, and we see what can we negotiate. So specifically, insurance is a big one. We have estimates done for the insurance. We have trash, landscaping, snow removal, common area cleaning, all that kind of stuff. It's a great time to do that. And then we complete our end of year report. Okay, so we take that annual profit and loss, and we do the same thing we do on a monthly basis. We look at the actual versus budgeted, and we do a narrative. Hey, my gosh, we really we exceeded our expectations. Here's why. We fell short of expectations. Here's why. And then we also create the budget for the next year, and we do that together with our property manager. So that's all we do on an annual basis. So it's definitely a mistake to let your property manager to do whatever they want without any kind of oversight from you. You got to make sure you interact with them on a consistent basis, more frequently in the beginning than at the end. Review the key performance indicators, the metrics regular as described in this video. And if you do that, you can make adjustments promptly. You can make sure they're on track. If they're not on track, you can potentially replace them. And you're really now making sure that you're maximizing the value of your asset. All right, that's it. That's all I got. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you share this video. Also, make sure you subscribe to my channel. We're putting out stuff weekly. Download my free ebook. And hey, watch this next video. Catch you guys next time.